All right, Jackie, you just passed the PMP exam. How do you feel right now?
I feel great. I feel accomplished. I am happy with my results.
That is awesome. So everybody's got their own little PMP story. What is your PMP story, the short version?
The short version is that I come from an education background. I was a teacher for 10 years, made the switch into government contracting, and holding a PMP in that realm is a very important way to grow your career, expand your career, things like that. So that was the main reason I did it.
That's awesome. So, did you how long did it take you from the moment you decided hey, I'm going to do this till you got it? Was it a straight line, took 2 days, or how long did it take for you?
I decided I was going to do it in December 2020, and then started to study using other materials than your own. In January, got burnt out. It didn't make sense to me. None of it was working. And so took a break. And then I believe I watched one of your YouTube videos in March.
Yeah.
And said, this guy makes sense. This seems logical. I'm a very logical person.
Yeah.
And the video was okay, so this makes sense. This is logical. I like this. And then I contacted you. And then the next day, I believe I was in class. You're like, welcome to class. And then it was less than a month, or maybe just a month, that then I took the exam and passed.
Okay, sweet. So you only took a month to get through it. That's sweet. What was different from old traditional boot campy type way to the way in which you learned the second way? What was the biggest difference?
So in old traditional boot campy type way, I was trying to memorize everything. They, as in the other PMP programs, put an emphasis on, you need to memorize the process. You need to memorize the knowledge areas. You need to do all this memorization. And you were the first thing you said was you don't need to memorize anything. I was like, great, perfect, sign me up. So that was the main difference. And the case story that you lay out, the real life applications that you use, it was just, again, I go back to logic, but it was all very logical to me. There was no just memorize this. You also put an emphasis on, this is going to make you a better project manager, which is important. Coming from an education background, you want to understand the why, and you want things to make you better, and you want to learn. And so it wasn't just about memorizing to pass a test. It was actually about learning to become a better project manager. So
do you think you became a better project manager through the course?
For sure. I lead a team right now, a smaller team of about 10 people. But even as I was studying, I was implementing things I was studying and seeing how my team was operating differently. And so not only was it helping me to pass a test, but it was also helping me to, be a better PM, be a better, person and boss.
That's pretty good. I like that. Now let's talk about the actual exam. Now, what kind of questions did you face? Was it all situational questions? Were there predictive and agile, the mixy-matchy kind of questions? What did you face question-wise on the real exam?
So the majority of the questions were situational. I think that I knew that going in. I knew most were going to be situational. The new exam does have some of those new matching sort of drag and drop questions. Those are on there, but the majority of them were situational. It is truly a 50-50, like PMI says, waterfall, traditional, and then agile, some hybrid thrown in there. But I felt very prepared. I knew most of it was going to be situational. So that's what I faced. And the drag and drops were, even though they were drag and drop, they were still sort of situational. So you're just constantly analyzing situations on the exam.
That's cool. And so what do you think as far as the material that you went through with PM Master Prep or the 7-day accelerator, what inside the material helped you prepare, or did it help you prepare for the situational questions you face? What about it?
Sure. So the biggest thing for me in the 7-day accelerator were the classes. So hard questions with Scott, with you,
Yeah.
That was helpful. And then my coaching calls, I was with Steve. Those are very helpful because you learn how to pull important information from a question. So, a lot of the situational questions have information you do not need. And in the live classes, you learn how to eliminate all of that information that is just fluff that makes, has no bearing on the answer. And you learn to identify important words, the words that matter. So that was most important.
That's awesome. What do you think, like, as you reflect back, I mean, you have the thing where you went through traditional terrible boot camps. I mean, those are my words. And the way we teach, which is more interactive, logic based. It's putting like you
Right.
as the star of the show. I mean, I'll tell
Right.
you the truth. Like, my goal is to make Jackie the star, and all the Jackies out there, like, you're the hero. Like, let's make
I
you the
love
hero.
that.
Right. And so, what are some mistakes that you think that normal PMP students make as they start to prepare for their exam?
So I can give you some real life examples of things that I've heard from classmates and from other people that are trying to pass. The most common statement is, well, that's not how I do it. Like, that's not how, we do it where, I work. And, as since I want to be a star, you have to put that aside. You have to put that aside, and you have to check your own, I don't want to say ego, but your own method of doing things sort of at the door. And learn that that's not the way that you should study. That's not the way that you should learn the questions. The way that you should learn the questions is by each individual question themselves. So, you want to insert yourself into it, and you want to insert your own logic, your own what you would do, but not necessarily what you have done. So you need to separate, what you've done in the past to now that you've been in the 7-day accelerator, how would you handle this now? So I think there's a difference between making yourself a star before starting the 7-day accelerator and then making yourself a star after, because your way of thinking and your way of using logic to come to an answer, to the best answer, is going to be completely different.
Okay. What tips would you have for people starting out? Like you said, hey, this is the way you shouldn't do it. Like, let's go to the positive path. What tips would you have for them to get them along a path and be successful?
Sure. So I was a big note taker, and I would take less notes. So I just absorbed all the content. I would, in terms of your program specifically with the 7-day accelerator, I printed out the checklist for each day.
Yeah.
And I would just go through the checklist and, check it off and excuse me, and follow that. And I wouldn't take that many notes. I would just let the information seep in.
Oh, that's cool. And then, so let's talk through just kind of like, so you can do the 7-day accelerator. This is not about that. It's about you, but like, you can do it in 7 days, or it's kind of like an accordion. Like, you can go long, you can go short, whatever. We know you didn't take too long because you knocked it out in like a couple of weeks, but what was your day-to-day schedule of studying like?
So I probably spent about two days of my own on each day of your program. So I split it up. I would say on average, each day should take you about like 4 hours of studying. That's just not me, nor do I have the time to do that. So I would spend like an hour and a half to 2 hours per day. But I would make sure that I was consistent. So I never took a day off. But I also didn't overwhelm myself with trying to cram in like, oh my gosh, I need to study 5 hours today. I didn't finish day 3. Like, I need to stay up till 3 a.m. That's not going to help you at all. Consistency will help you. I like the quote, shavings make a pile. So as long as you're doing a little bit each day, then you're going to be okay. But you need sleep, you need to eat, you need to live your life, you need to do your job. So while studying is important, of course, and you want to fit it in, it was never, I never made it like I have to do this, I have to get 5 hours in, or I'm not going to be successful, that type of thing.
So like, I think it's really awesome that you had and we talk about this a lot, and like the emotional resilience part of it. And like, just like a lot of the videos I film, and I'm like, dude, it's like 2:30 in the morning. Don't do what I'm doing. Like, so you like the flexibility. I'm glad that you were able to maintain and like stick to a plan that worked for you. You got the right rest. You were eating, like, going through those things and like progressions. And I really like that shaving example that you use. Shavings make a pile.
It's a good,
That's a good quote. Yes. And so cool. So like, as you move forward, like, would you recommend the Accelerator for other people? Like, what kind of person would it be good for? Like, talk to me about, in your opinion.
Sure. I mean, I don't mean this, to boost your ego, but it's good for everyone, because you can kind of take whatever approach to it that you want. So if you're someone that likes to memorize, if you think that memorization is the way to go, and I don't believe it is, but if you believe that there's plenty for you to take notes on, there are flashcards, there are concrete things that you can study. If you're someone that's more logical like myself, that wants to insert yourself in the content and think of it from a personal perspective, there's the case stories. If you are someone that doesn't have a lot of time to study, you have 7 days. I totally believe that you can do it in 7 days, but I believe that any program like yours that has a variety of different ways to approach it can be modified for anyone, but the common denominator is that you have to want to study and have to want to pass. I mean, just because it says 7 days doesn't mean it's like this magical 7-day trick. Like, you have to put in the work. So your program is for anyone that wants to put in the work and wants to learn and wants to be successful.
That's awesome. And like, this isn't the first time that you and I have talked, which is this is like, these little conversations that we have are super duper awesome. Cause it's like, hey, this isn't like, hey, you took my program. Nice to meet you. Let's shake hands. It's like, dude, like, we've been in coaching calls, and Steve lets me know. I have a system where I can see where everybody does. Like, so, what kind of impact did the PMP coaching calls have on you? Like, what was the experience with the coaching calls? How did it help?
So the first one, I remember you asked me, are you nervous? And I was like, no, I'm good. But I was terrified. But it's a very relaxed environment. Once you settle in, it's really helpful to have other people walking through questions, because you pick up on things and you learn things that you wouldn't have necessarily thought of yourself. So one, it's helpful to be in a group setting because you have more minds, and the more minds you have, the more ideas you have, and you tend to pick up on things that you wouldn't necessarily just pick up if you were reading a book by yourself. And obviously the way that you coach, which is like, get the answer right, get it wrong. We're going to learn something. We're going to take something from the question. I think that's very important. You talk about, you and I have talked about squeezing information from a question. You want to squeeze as much information that you can, even if you get it wrong. So that was very helpful. The freedom to like get an answer wrong, but still know that I'm learning something was helpful. And then, in my Thursday night group, that was a much smaller group. I actually only had, at one point, it was like me and one other person. Okay. So it was a nice small group setting, but there I did craft my battle plan, if you will, for the exam. So I was able to go in with a strategy, know how I was going to attack the questions, as Steve would say. And, it gave me, I'm a sports person, so it gave me a game plan as to, how I was going to win. And that was invaluable. I think that's what a lot of these boot camps and a lot of these other programs are missing, is the live coaching, the one-on-one coaching, the small group coaching, because that's ultimately, when you sit down to take the exam, those are the people that are going to be in your head. Like you were in my head yelling at me the whole time. Like, that's not a good word. And
nice way, by the way, I hope. Like,
no, you weren't yelling, but I could, I could hear your voice. No,
sorry,
I could hear your voice
me.
like, that's not a word that you would want to find in that answer. And Steve had his own method that I implemented. So both of those are extremely beneficial, because in order to, do anything, to be successful at anything, you need someone that has been there before you, that's maybe a little bit more experienced than you, giving you a guide on how to do it. So that's what those calls are.
That's awesome. And like, one of the questions that people give me they ask me a lot is like, how many questions should I take? So how many PMP questions should they take? Should they take thousands and millions of simulator questions, or should they not? When should they do it? What's your philosophy? I have a philosophy, but like, what's your philosophy?
Yeah, no, as I roll my eyes, as you say, take a million questions. I think you need to take as many as you need to take as many that will make you feel confident.
Mm-hmm.
That does not need to be a million. I know your philosophy on questions. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I know how you feel. My feeling is I probably took more than you would have wanted me to. But that's because I wanted to feel confident. Like I wanted to take enough where I felt like, oh, okay, I've seen this type of question before. I know how to approach it. But in my opinion, you do not need to take like 200 questions a day. I know people that were taking 200 a day for 2 weeks leading up to the exam. I don't think that's necessary. What I think is more important is what you get out of each question.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're taking 200 questions and you're not getting anything out of it, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like, if you say, you're gonna get on the treadmill, but then you just stand there, you're not gonna do anything. So I think quality over quantity is more important in terms of your learning. But please, in my opinion, don't take like a 1,000 million questions.
Yeah. And then the crazy thing is, like, I know that as I've evolved into this, because I mean, I took the test too a long time ago and I didn't know how many to take. One of the things that, having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students pass, and we got this thing down pretty good now, is that when I see a thought process in an individual's mind, and that's why we do the coaching calls over and over and over and over, because I want my mouth to shut up and your mouth to start talking so that I can see how you're approaching it. Are you getting up? You getting nervous? Are you getting lost? Can you bounce back? Are you focusing on the right stuff? Are you, can you learn? So like for you personally, like it was weeks, like halfway through, like from your whole thing, I was like, it's over. Like, it's done. Like, take the test. It's over. Like, do it. And you're like, oh, no, my test is out. Like, I got things and blah, blah, blahs. And I was like, all right, whatever. But like, you didn't at that point, just to stay warm, like you just need to take a couple questions, go a little deeper. Like you had already learned it. Like you had the logic, you had the process, it was done. Like, and just cause I could see it, like repeatable, sure, you didn't get them all right. And I got the text like, yo, I screwed up tonight. Like, I was like, just don't derail. You're good.
Right.
So you're good. So that's awesome. And I'm proud of you, how you did. So, all right. So to finish off, you've given us a lot. If someone's listened to this long, good for you guys. What is your last message for these people that are like, they're getting ready to go on this journey? Like, what do you want to tell them to kind of close this thing out, if you would?
I would say, first of all, that you can do it. I think a lot of people stop at the point of frustration and they don't just go over the hump of, oh, like this just doesn't make sense. So my first message would be that you can do it. And the way that you're going to do that is you're going to put in the work and you're going to have confidence and you're going to use logic. Like you said, after a week and a half of coaching calls and going through your 7-day accelerator, I knew that I had it. And that's not to toot my own horn or say that, I'm some genius. I'm definitely not. But that was not me in January. In January, I thought, this is impossible. There's no way I'm going to learn this content. That this, like, my mind can't do this. I can't memorize all these things. And then I had to shift my mindset. A huge part of it is mindset. You just have to believe that you can master the content and that the content is not going to master you. And so if you can get past the point of being frustrated and feeling like, oh, this is a little bit hard, you're going to be successful because it's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think that it's hard and you're not going to get it, then you probably aren't going to get it. But if you believe that this is something that you can grasp, then you can. And so what I would leave with people is that, you have to believe in yourself. I know that sounds so cliche and so corny, but you do. If you don't, you're not going to get it and you're not going to put in the work. But if you believe that you can do it, I believe that you can do it. If you believe that you can do it and you put in the work, there's no reason why you can't be successful and pass the PMP.
I love it. And don't forget you're not alone. Cause like, even if you got a little low, we'd be like, hey, bounce you back up. And if you got too high, we bounce you back down. So you stay in that like nice little area. And then, you know, you took to the logic really well. So it's
yeah,
simple
that
as it
was
gets.
my main key. I mean, and logic was my main key to passing. I'm not saying that's everyone's key, but
Yeah.
logic was mine. Like, this is the logical answer. I'm a logical person, so it made sense. But yeah, I definitely had my ups and downs. So
That's not a problem.
stay mentally strong.
Stay mentally strong. All right, Jackie, I really, really appreciate it. You did an amazing job. This will not be the last time we chat. And if there's anything I can do to help you, please reach out, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya.
Thank you, Scott.
Bye-bye.
Bye.